Steve, your latest charts take a look at AI and how it might impact the U.S. economy and the American workforce. And you say the fear of automation is not a new thing. Talk about it.
Well, first of all, Mika, you've already found a use case for AI, so I'm glad that it's going to help resolve issues in the Scarborough household. But yeah, look, AI has become a thing of the moment. People are worried about it. People are talking about it. We should say at the outset, it is the fastest technological innovation that's been adopted in history. 700 million people a week use AI. 10% of the world's population is on ChatGPT. But let's go back in history. I can't prove to you that AI is going to be great in the future because the future hasn't happened yet, but I can talk to you about some examples from the past. So automation worries, and that's just another form of automation, aren't new. 1963, Life magazine published this cover story in which they said, automation's really here, jobs go scarce, point of no return for everyone. The leader of it was about a company that had gotten a new piece of equipment that was going to replace a lot of workers. The union leader said it was going to replace 60% of his workforce, and so on and so forth. But let's look at what happened in the economy after that. So this is 1963. The economy was growing. But look what happened. It continued to grow. It actually produced about twice as many jobs, about 12 million jobs after 1963 as it had produced in the 5 years before that. Look at the unemployment rate. It was 5.6%. By 1969, it was down to 3.5%. So the economy kept growing, jobs kept getting created, and even though we did have a lot of automation.
So, Steve, on that point, your second chart shows that innovation does actually create new jobs.
Yeah. There's a phrase economists use called creative destruction. The economy is constantly destroying jobs and creating jobs. Think about all the professions that we used to have that have disappeared. Telephone operators. When was the last time anybody talked to a telephone operator? But yet back in 1970, we had 400,000 of them. And before 1880 or so, we didn't have any. And that was a job that was created, ultimately destroyed. People who work on railroads, not all railroad workers, but certain kinds of them, we created a lot of jobs. It's basically gone to zero. Elevator operators. You can think of so many other kinds of jobs that we used to have that have disappeared. Typewriter repairmen, paper boys, all sorts of things that don't exist anymore. And the biggest, of course, of all are farm workers, in the sense that if you go back 200 years, 80 or 90% of Americans worked on farms. Today, it's 2%. We found jobs for all those people, for their children and their grandchildren, as they moved along in life. And there are jobs that are growing. This is a survey from the Bureau of Labor Statistics showing jobs that they expect to be the fastest growing occupational jobs created in the next 10 years. And so some of them are new technologies like wind turbine technicians and solar voltaic installers. We're going to need a lot more healthcare workers. Obviously, all the data and technology has brought a huge slew of jobs there. And these are good jobs, 63,000 a year, 52,000 a year, 129,000 a year, and so on and so forth. So, yes, we're destroying jobs, but we're also going to create jobs.
And then, Steve, your third chart sort of ties these two topics together. Of course, the idea of affordability, so central to our political discussion right now, but also this with new technology, including AI, that chart suggests could lower some of those prices.
Yeah, people wonder, okay, so we have AI. I'll take you at your word that they're going to be jobs, but how does this help me? So let's look at, again, I have to do history here. I can't do what's going to happen because who knows? What did Yogi Berra say? It's hard to predict history because it's the future. Anyway, innovation lowers prices. So here's 4 examples from history of innovations that have had a dramatic effect. Ford's Model T, famously, everybody knows, sold for $825 in 1908. In today's dollars, that would be about $30,000. The actual price, not adjusted for inflation, went down to $260 by 1925, and that would be $4,000 in today's world. Well, how did that happen? Assembly lines, more control of supply line, again, learning efficiencies. Long-distance phone calls, some of us, I know Barnacle's here, is certainly among us. Remember, you had to pay for long-distance phone calls. The first one cost $20 in 1915, $660 in today's money. 1955, when we had really good phones by then, still cost $380 to call California. That would be $45 today. And now, of course, with our unlimited plans, it's essentially free. Personal computers, $750, now at $150. And it would have been $5,000, $6,000 if the price had stayed the same in today's dollars, and now it's $150. And then lastly, televisions, an RCA early color television, $380, $2,700 in today's prices. Now you can get yourself an HD flat screen whoopee television for $130. So this is how the consumer benefit happens. Companies cut their costs through AI and other technologies, and eventually, through competition, they get passed along to consumers. And then consumers spend that money, and that creates jobs as they buy other things. And then lastly, quickly, look, the most important thing in an economy is productivity, how much more efficient we're getting. That can be technology, that can be working differently. You can see in what we consider now to be a golden age of the economy, we were growing productivity at over 2.5%. You can see in the 70s and 80s, which for the most part, we consider a more difficult economic environment, productivity growth dropped dramatically. You can see in the 90s and the 2000s, which put aside the financial crisis, was also actually a pretty strong period. Productivity grew. But here, and this gets right back to where we started this conversation, here is where productivity is now. And so productivity isn't growing, and so real wages after inflation aren't growing, and so people are unhappy, and that's the 66% disapproval rating that Donald Trump has for his handling of the economy.
Steve, one quick fact check. Mike Barnicle only calls collect. Morning Joe, economic analyst Steve Rattner, thank you. We await the Treasury Secretary's rebuttal. Steve, thank you again for those charts.